Hey there, everybody. I thought I would invite you along to paint a couple of cherry blossoms with me. I've already pre-mixed some paint. This is some rose red with some white and more water mixed in. This is a more concentrated version of white and rose red. This is just rose red. This is rose red with extra water. And then this is actually just a little bit of a metallic pink with a metallic white, just in case I feel like getting funky. So let's get started. I always like to kind of wet my paper first. This is in just a little watercolor journal, so the paper's not 100% cotton, but it's fun just to kind of practice my ideas in. So get this wet, dab off my brush, and I'm going to pick up some of that wash of the pink and the white, and I'm just going to kind of drop that in, get that extra water off. Drop that in and kind of spread it around a little bit. Just kind of getting some pigment onto the page, onto the flower. All right. Not too worried about staying completely in the lines. It's a looser flower. And then that has quite a bit of water in it, so I'm actually going to soak some of that up. And cherry blossoms are pretty light, so I'm going to lift up some of that color on the petals, the edge of the petals there. And then I'm going to pick up more of a concentrated, I'm going to mix those together and actually kind of dab that more just along in the center there. Just to get a little bit of color in the center. Rinse out my brush. And I'm going to leave that one alone just for a little bit. And then I'm going to come up to this one. I don't mind that my brush still has some of that color in it because this is going to be a pink flower anyway, so it's okay. And again, I'm not really going to worry too much about staying in the lines. This is one of the ones that I may outline a little bit, so it's fun to kind of keep it loose. I'm going to go ahead and drop some of that more concentrated color in. Kind of just around here, around the stem, I guess, and then maybe just a little bit towards the center. And then I'm going to go in and actually get some from the palette. Drop a little bit more of that kind of in the center, just a little bit there. And then I'm actually going to put some water down just kind of in the background a little bit. Rinse my brush out, and I'm going to go in with kind of one of these washes, and I'm just going to kind of dab that in, and it'll just kind of look like a faded, not faded, but a flower in the background. Okay. Now I'm going to get a it's like a burned brown, I guess, color. Didn't pre-mix that, but get some of that in here. By the way, I am using a size 10 round brush by Princeton. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay some of that color in there. I want that to be a little more concentrated. I didn't activate my paints quite soon enough. Go ahead and drop some of that in. And I don't mind if they kind of run into each other a little bit. Like I said, this is kind of a loose painting. This one ran a little bit too much, so I'm going to soak some of that up. I'm going to drop some more in just around this edge here. A little bit here. A little bit here. Okay. Now I'm going to pause for a second and dry this. I'll be right back. Okay, my flowers are dry to the touch. Now I noticed in the pictures that I actually looked at to kind of start coming up with a concept that there is actually a little bit of yellow in there, just kind of from the little stamens. I actually have a little bit of orange already mixed up. I'm going to just put a little bit more yellow in there. It's fairly concentrated. I don't want a bunch of water because my flower's a little bit wet. I'm just going to kind of drop a little bit of that just in the center. And then we have some areas here where some petals are folded, so I'm going to go ahead and go in with a little bit more of a concentrated and just kind of drop that in right along the edges there. And then I'm going to drop a little bit more kind of in the center. And that's pretty heavy line there, so I'm going to just run my brush along that edge just to soften that up a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to go into this one as well where there would be kind of some shadows because these petals are behind. So I'm going to drop in just a little bit more color there. And this petal here would be a little bit in shadow. Again, this is a very loose rendition in a sketchbook. You're just kind of coming along with me for fun. Get some more of those browns mixed up. Get the extra water off my brush. I'm going to go back in and just add a little bit of more dark kind of over that. And then I'm going to make this a little bit of green, I think, right here, just to pop in some other color. Again, fairly loose. Rinse my brush. And I'm going to go ahead and mix up some of this glittery. Kind of pop that in just sort of sporadically, more on the edge of those leaves, or petals, I guess. Just a little bit there. Okay. And then I'm going to dry that one more time. Okay, now I'm actually going to go in with a liner and just kind of check that out. I don't always line mine, but I like to just do kind of a sketchy line sometimes just to kind of define some of those petals. And then put some of the stamens in. Since we're looking right at the flower, they'll kind of go all different directions. Okay. Give this a little bit of an outline. Again, super loose, just kind of practicing, messing around a little bit. I'm coming up with a concept for a class, and this is kind of how I go about that, just practicing. Put a couple little marks in there. And then in the stamen, those are actually pretty orangey yellow, so I'm going to go back in and add just a few little, get a little bit more concentrated here. A few little dots, and actually I could have used like a wax or something when I was painting it to kind of leave those areas clear, but that way when I put this orangey yellow stuff in it or paint in, it would show up a little bit more. But again, this is just kind of a trial, working out some kinks. And then you would see just a tiny bit in this one, so I'll just throw a few little nods to some stamens there. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and mix up a little bit of green a couple different ones. And then I am going to put just a little bit more kind of down here, just to give this a little bit more definition as well, because it would also be, you know, behind, so it would have a little bit of a shadow. And then because I have a problem with glitter or metallic and glittery paint and splatter, go ahead and give that a little splatter there at the end. And then we'll dry that and we'll call it done. Let me zoom in just a little bit here. Move the painting so you can see it kind of close up. And again, that's just a loose kind of practicing fun cherry blossom. Thanks for joining me.